What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. This podcast is for those that are wanting to listen to individuals from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life on their own journeys, telling their story, diving into a bunch of different things, and that led them to where they're at today. And so along this journey, we'll segue into certain topics, as we gather information on these individuals. But so we got people from all over, and it's a really good time. So if that's for you, then keep on listening, and then subscribe, and then review it, give it 5 stars, and share it everywhere. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Okay.
Very nice.
That being said, as always, we got my man Logan Hyder of Cinema 83 in the house.
Hello.
Doing his thing. And I got this.
Yeah, you got it.
And
I got this. I'm going to make it through this, I promise.
Yeah.
We got a very special guest, Mr. Elias Yarzagary.
Hey, there you go.
Welcome.
Good pronunciation. Thank
That
you.
was right?
Do what I can. I'm like,
Nice.
yeah, I do what I can. Yeah. But anyways, Elias, welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here, man. So I met Elias a few years back. There was an event at a gym called Carbon Culture in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And he was working a food truck. He taught me into getting, what were they?
Empanadas, Colombian empanadas.
Yeah, and I was like, I never had that, but they were good as hell. I think I got a few of them.
Yeah.
And then, in passing, ran into each other at the gym. What's up? Yep. And so
What's up?
Obviously I'm gathering guests on here. I mean, we're recording 3 episodes next week, which is crazy. But, I get a feeling about people, and Jesse and I are both real close, and he was like, dude, get this guy on, man. He's got a cool story. He's really cool to talk to, and very interesting, and he talked you up, and I was like, man, I trust Jesse's word. And so I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And so here you are, my man.
Yeah.
Welcome. This is your first podcast?
The first podcast, yeah.
Damn, dude.
It's gonna be good.
Already a superstar.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. How do you feel?
Feel good.
Feels pretty easy. You feel like tense or anything?
Well, so for you, like you said, jumping in right in, I'm a head coach at Orange Theory Fitness in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So that entails being on a mic 24/7 all the time.
True.
Yeah,
I didn't think about
exactly.
that.
And you're in front of about, like 28 people or something like that. And then you got almost like, I wouldn't call it a alter ego or something like that, but just like your regular personality, you crank it up to 10 and stuff like that. So,
of course, you have to.
The public speaking and everything like that. Yeah.
And if you don't do that, they're going to like, hey, you got to go.
Yeah, they're going to hit the snooze button. So
yeah, I tell you what, public speaking is, with me going to school, like that's going to open doors. And as this grows, and I want to get into public speaking events, down the road. But, you got to start somewhere. Like, I'm really good at this, but I went to talk to a class at MTSU last year, and I was just like, before I went to class, I was like checking my pulse. Yeah. I'm like, man, I feel really flustered. It's like these fucking 19-year-old kids. I'm like, why do I feel this way? Like, I do everything I've done. Yeah. Like, how the hell? And it gets you though, man. So
that's true.
But once you kind of open up and you get flowing, you feel good. And it's good for you, man. It helps you grow.
It does. It really does.
Being on camera really does help with public speaking because it gives you like the psychological effect because people are going to watch it. So it feels like public speaking at first. So if you can get over being on camera, it really should help with that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fun part is I take some of my coaches, since I went through film school and we're jumping ahead on that. But so I'll do, videos for my gym and everything like that. And get coaches who are really good in person, then you throw them in front of the camera and they're like, fart. Exactly.
You're like, hey man, just go sit over there. I got you.
Speaking my language on that one, dude. Sometimes you get people that are so like extroverted, and then you hit record and they're like, I've literally had people do that, bro. I hit record and they start talking like this, and I turn it off. Like, how was that? And I'm like, let's try to hit record. It's like, bro, just speak.
Yeah. One thing that I've learned is that I've got to tone it back because always being in front of people and everything like that is my volume. I like to project like 6 feet out, something like that. Because if you're in a gym with a lot of people and everything like that, you're trying to fill the room with energy. So if I'm speaking person to person on a one-on-one scale, my brother will sometimes feel like he's assaulted by my voice because I'm like, okay, what up? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, poof, and he's like, okay, you're not working right now. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. You're like, I love you, man. He's like, oh God, love you too. He's like threatened to buy it.
Hey, dude, how's your day?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Were you from for this?
So born and raised all around Middle Tennessee. Okay. Kind of like, let's say, going back to my roots and everything like that. My grandparents immigrated from Colombia in late 60s. Both of them were doctors and they immigrated to Chicago. We're teaching out there, practicing at the teaching hospitals in Chicago. My grandfather was a highly decorated like neurosurgeon, and my mom and dad, kind of like a Franklin, Tennessee, but of Chicago, Hinsdale area.
Yeah.
They grew up there, met there, and moved down here in the early 90s. So
nice.
Yeah, we were just talking about this before the podcast, but
I missed it. I was tinkling.
No, you're fine. So like, you can't have a Southern accent as, a Hispanic man who's from, Chicago, his parents come down. But whenever you're interacting with people or, selling, we probably make me at the food truck. I'm like, you want some of them empanadas? It's like a taco and a hot pocket had a baby and you deep fried that baby. You literally turn it on.
People are like, what the hell?
I was like, dude, you tell them it's deep fried. You're good. You're good to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, man, and we can surprise your parents next time they visit, just like fucking, I'll give you a can of Copenhagen,
Yeah.
I'll guide you. Just really throw them off. Be like, hey, mom, man.
Hey, what's up there?
Like, your mom.
What has he done? What is he doing down here in Tennessee? It's all because of that podcast. Obviously you got lime. You said something about lime, so I have to ask how do you feel about key lime pie?
Oh, key lime pie is amazing, my dude. Like lime, lemon, orange.
I just ate some key lime pie last night.
I go nuts.
After my workout.
Of course you do.
I'm tattooed key lime pie.
Look at this man.
Hey, look at that. Look
It's my
at
favorite
that.
thing in the world.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Key lime energy drink.
Oh my
anything.
God.
Oh, my dude. I go nuts on it.
Well, maybe if First Form sponsors us, we can do a key lime energy drink.
There you go.
There's
special
a hierarchy of
taste.
energy drinks to me. Like, you've got your Monsters, your Red Bulls, and then you go up a little level, your Celsius and stuff like that, and you've got your Bangs, and then it goes into specific flavor types. For me, it's the lemon and the lime of pretty much like Bang, 3D Energy, all that stuff. Anything that's lime or lemon, orange, anything like that, I'm like, just go straight to it.
And these guys knock it out of the park with this.
Yeah, that's the first time having this, and this is good.
Yeah, it's
I
not
like
overkill. It's not like too
Perfect.
It's just like it's got the right flavoring.
Yeah.
But
But if you give me a lemon one that tastes like battery acid, I'm just like,
you're like, hell yeah.
Go
What's
with
the
it.
better?
yeah.
So that being said, well, we got a little bit on you, and so do you have any other projects going on as far as you do the you're at Orange Theory. Currently, what else are you got your hands in as well?
Yeah. So I got one problem, which is the world interests me way too much. And I mean way too much. And I love to do everything. So before I became a fitness coach, for those of you who don't know, I'm one of 13 siblings, big old massive Colombian family.
That's it?
Oh, yeah. And
That's it.
yeah, I got 9 brothers and 3 sisters, and we're all homeschooled. So we didn't go through into any public school sports. Well, if you got 9 brothers in one house all day, chaos ensues.
Of course.
Exactly. Wrestling, just complete destruction and everything like that. So mother took us and threw us all into karate. So I've been doing, probably about since 2012 or something like that. So yeah, I was pretty much raised in karate.
Doing the martials.
Yeah.
Hell
Just beating on my brothers and stuff like that. They've been beating on me. So
Hell
yeah. So karate's been a very, very, very big part of my life. After reaching my black belt, or kind of like brown belt, black belt level, I started doing jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. I actually didn't go to college because I wanted to become a pro MMA fighter.
Really?
Yeah.
Hell
So-
yeah.
Nice.
And so that fighter has always been in me. And my grandfather, who immigrated, was a captain in the Colombian Army and was a boxer as well. So
Nice.
yeah, one time he was doing a fight, and this guy was going for a big fight, and he was like the tuner match or something like that.
Okay.
And actually the guy hit him with a really, really good shot, and he always he's a very dramatic person, very full of life and everything like that. And he's like, felt the power well up in my fist, and it just felt like I went from the ground straight into his jaw and knocked the guy out cold for 45 minutes straight.
Did he decapitate him?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Knocked his soul right out of his body.
But he was supposed to lose.
Yeah.
That was he was supposed to be the guy who gets beat. Basically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for
And
sure.
he knocked him out. That's
yeah,
crazy.
just completely knocked him out. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that fighter gene has always been in there.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
Well, we want to talk more on that, and eventually I want to get to Colombia because I want to go get stem cell injections, but I don't be able to afford it. But my legs are jacked. So one day, I mean, that's like a couple Rolexes worth of shots. But I've been to South America. I've been to Chile, But yeah, I've been out of like Patagonia area. Ooh. Beautiful. Most amazing place I've ever.
Absolutely beautiful.
Insane. Yeah. Never forget it. But South America's great. I definitely, I'm going to get to Colombia one day, check it out, and get some injections. So.
Oh, yeah. And most of my family, we try to do as many of our medical things down in South America, in Colombia or something like that. Really? Just because it's so much cheaper.
Interesting.
And the quality of medical service is usually almost better. Like, unfortunately, America doesn't have the best, medical system, as far as in that it's very good, but then it also in that our healthcare and all that,
I got VA coverage, you know what I'm saying? Well, the crazy thing is, it is good when it comes to like, and we'll get into your story a little bit more, but it's interesting you say that because, everybody wants like free healthcare. And it's like, well, a lot of these doctors make a lot of money, and you're paying somebody good money, they're going to do a really good job. Yeah. So like, for example, when I had my accident and I got life flight to Vandy, I had like heart surgery, fucking all these leg surgeries, metal, and I got a graft, I got metal in my legs, all this stuff. Vandy's got really good surgeons, and they fixed me up, and like. But they're probably making bank, every year.
The cost didn't really matter at that point. You just wanted to live.
Yeah. So, but if they're getting a set salary, unfortunately, the quality is going to lower. I'd assume, right? But but that's in America, right? Because we do live in like a very materialistic country. So maybe in another country, someone's just grateful to be a doctor, like they're crushing it. So a little different mindset here too, though.
Yeah, it's just the whole culture, everything, completely different. So has its pros, has its cons as well. There's a lot more corruption and everything like that down there, which most of us are aware of, and that has a whole thing that we can get into. So there's myself. I always joke if I when I retire, I'm just going to go to the mountains of Colombia, practice martial arts, with kung fu, whatever. You can see me with a big white beard, reading books.
Monk
Yeah. Oh, 100% monk style. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That sounds like
heaven.
Genius idea.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be me one day, hopefully.
They're like, oh, there he is up on the mountain.
Reading philosophy while bouncing on a rock, having a cup of tea in one hand.
You'll think back at that time when you put those headphones on and was around all that technology and stuff.
Yep.
So your grandparents immigrated here, you said?
Yeah.
And so how often did you go back, or like how?
So for myself, I went as a baby down there, and I had never been back since. It's hard to take 13 kids on an international trip.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. So
you fly by yourself as a baby?
No.
He flew the plane.
Let's go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. So at that point, I was the youngest, and there was 5 of us. So went down there for a whole like extended family vacation, and wasn't able to come back until my sister just got married down there. So we did a whole international wedding and stuff like that. And when I went down there, like it just felt like I was alive.
Yeah.
And this is something you could probably relate to as well, is like the ancestral like DNA and everything like that. When I'm coaching, I talk to people about ancestral eating.
Yeah.
And over generations and generations and generations of you living in a certain climate, your body adapts to these foods.
Yeah.
And, you quite literally come from the soil from there.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who was like energy levels low and stuff like that, Cuban guy. I'm like, yo, we're both from the Caribbean. Like, we eat avocados, we eat a lot of fresh fruit, we eat a lot of meat and stuff like that. I'm like, why aren't you eating like you're from the Caribbean? He switched and his energy levels went up. And my film professor from when I did film school, Irish, and when he went and moved to Ireland for a couple of years, and he felt like he was just like alive and home. And there is, a little bit of that cellular genetic, kind of memory or something like that going on and everything like that. So when I went to Miami a couple of years ago and walked into the old Hispanic district, Calle de Ocho, and literally walked in as cobblestone streets and stuff like that. You got old guys playing dominoes. You hear the Latin music playing.
That's
and
cool.
You smell the food and everything like that. And it was like, boom! I felt alive.
You're like, I am home.
Yeah, and that was just in Miami.
Yeah.
And the climate and everything like that. So when I went to Colombia, oh, dude, it was like absolutely amazing. Hot as hell. Don't get me wrong. The humidity there is just like our humidity, but just crank it up to 10. But it just, awakens something. I was like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing.
So you went again as an adult, correct?
Yeah. Okay. And I just went end of October.
Okay.
So,
Sweet. Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. I get that. I mean, we need a section of town like that here in Murfreesboro. Guys playing dice and stuff.
Yeah.
But not dice, but dominoes. But I think that's really cool. And what you said about the ancestral dieting thing, that's a big thing for me. You know, you're looking at Europeans and stuff, you know, Europeans had to go hours and without food and stuff. The climate was a little bit different, especially in like Northern Europe. And, but they ate a lot of red meat and stuff like that. Dairy, you know, is big in European diet. So, you know, I have like pretty much like red meat and cheese and whatnot like that. And, you know, but I'm able to go from like 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. the next day, every single day that between eating. Yeah. And I feel better than I ever have. My energy levels are better. You know, I get everything I need to in those last few hours of the day. And I feel great until 6 p.m. the next day, and I eat after I train. But like that, I've noticed, and that's just like testing different things. I don't like to eat because like I feel it takes me away from productivity. I'm like, I don't want to eat right now. Yep. So, and I get a little sleepy. But yeah, I think the ancestral diet thing is huge and something for people to look into. Like, what were the common foods of your ancestors? And you'll probably adapt to that really well, your gut health and everything.
Yeah, I like to say you have a genetic predisposition to it. Yeah. You know, and it also does have a factor of like from age 1 to 8, so much of your formation happens then, you know, on a physical, physiological, you know, on a, you know, psychiatric level and everything like that. 1 to 8 is like, you know, the foundational years. So if I ever, you know, have kids one day, and I hope to have some, poor kids are going to have it rough one day. Let me tell you, you know, being a fitness trainer, martial artist and all this stuff, I'm like,
and the Colombian blood.
Exactly. And the Colombian blood. But so you've got that to take into consider. What were you, you know, how were you raised? But also you have that genetic predisposition. And I like to always think about eating for energy and what you were just saying. So whenever I'm doing a consultation with clients, I always like to say students love ramen, students love Pop-Tarts, students love donuts and stuff like that because the brain runs off of carbs, off of, you know, glucose and stuff like that. But taking that genetic disposition and everything like that, somebody from the Caribbean is going to run, you know, a lot on tropical fruits, a lot of higher fats and stuff like that. And asking yourself, like you said, dairy, beautiful. And your body's a little more, you know, push towards fats and, you know, using. For us as an Irish person, they're going to be smack down potatoes until, you know, the cows come home.
Dude, they love some potatoes.
Is that why I'm so snacky?
Hey, carbs of life, man.
Like real talk, I love potato chips.
Dude, carbs
I love fries. I love all that shit.
Yeah. So it's asking yourself, what does your body run off of for your daily neurological needs? It's not just in workout. You know, obviously we need carbs for, you know, pre-workout, post-workout, you know, all that good stuff. But ask yourself, if my energy levels aren't working, so where I'm crashing 2 p.m. and stuff like that, how do I need to fuel my body? You know, do I function better off of carbs? Do I function better off of fats? You know, and stuff like that. Myself, I don't, you know, buy into all strictly keto. Has some beautiful uses, medical uses. For those who don't know, keto was developed in the early 1900s for an epilepsy diet.
I know that.
Yeah. And the reason why is because epilepsy has, you know, it's a neurological disorder. And when that happens, that means that the firing of the nerve-to-nerve synapses is not functioning correctly. Well, this is why you said you can go, you know, almost 6 hours, you know, 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. without eating, is because when you're in the fasted state, your insulin levels are lower and you're able to have the neurological, you know, connections kind of firing and everything like that. Well, ketosis mimics that state because it's not raising, you know, your insulin levels and stuff like that. And there's some doctors nowadays who are using keto for ADHD.
Interesting.
People. Yeah, exactly. Because with mitochondrial function, and I like to call mitochondria the chef of the cell.
Chef of the cell.
Chef of the cell. Yeah, like exactly. Because he's injecting, you know, hormones. He's dealing with the nerve-to-nerve firing of each cell. He's, you know, taking, you know, energy, you know, carbs, whatever it be, turning it into energy for the cells and everything like that. So it's another thing about eating for mitochondrial health, which still really just means eating for energy on the microscopic scale and stuff like that. And when you're able to get into that ketosis state, you're able to, you know, keep your insulin levels lower, which helps for, you know, keeping the nerve inflammation down, all that beautiful stuff. But you also, you know, have to take into account that your body still needs carbs and stuff like that. So myself, like, you still need carbs. I tend to eat a little bit more along the lines of like 2/3 keto. So if I'm, let's say, eating in the morning, I'm eating I make something called a Moab omelet, mother of all omelets. 6 eggs.
Nice.
A Moab omelet. I
Moab
love that.
omelet. It's
I love
amazing. Yeah, 6-egg omelet, a whole onion, a cup of mushrooms, some spinach, and if I'm bulking,
whole
I'll throw
onion?
whole onion,
A whole
chop
onion.
a whole onion. Yeah.
Jeez.
Saute that
I love
bad
this
boy.
one, yeah.
I do
Saute
too.
that
That-
bad boy. Yeah,
Woo.
exactly. If I'm bulking, I'll throw in a whole avocado as well.
Nice.
And then usually a whole mango or something like that. And
Yeah.
I'm a savage. I eat the skin as well because, dude, there's some good stuff in
I'm sorry,
there.
did you say mango?
Mango.
You talking about mangoes, right?
Mango, exactly.
You're saying it wrong. Mangoes.
My clients will see me munching on a whole mango before class like a savage. They're just like, "What are you doing?"
That's so funny.
Dude, I mean, hell, when I eat an apple, I eat the core and everything.
Yeah.
One thing that I found really interesting whenever I started getting into like intermittent fasting and stuff, and it's funny because I started getting into it because I didn't have food at home whenever I was in early about 20s. But anecdotally, one of the things that I noticed about it that I thought was really fascinating was like kind of what you guys are talking about how your ancestors didn't. Like your ancestors didn't eat 3 square meals a day. Your ancestors didn't eat all these high calorie or high dense calorie foods.
Yeah, they weren't hobbits,
Yeah,
you know? They
yeah.
didn't eat first breakfast and second breakfast, you know?
And that really interesting anecdotal thing is like people think in their head like you need food for energy, for focus, like all this stuff. How could you possibly do anything whenever you haven't eaten? And like the ancestral thing goes back to the hunting, right? It's like when you only ate what you caught, there was long periods of time where you didn't eat. And whenever you were in that state, that sharpened you, made you more focused because you have to go hunt and get your food.
Yeah.
So what I noticed pretty quickly is like, actually, I feel better. Like you were saying, without food, like even sharper mentally. You think it would be the opposite, but it makes sense when you think about the ancestral thing. Like people aren't used to eating 3 times a day and snacking and all this stuff. You eat when you catch something, and so your brain's like, okay, let's turn this puppy on to 100 to go get some food.
Yeah.
And so the fasting is really, really interesting when it comes to
no,
that.
that goes into myself and in my journey as becoming a fitness coach because I was always the chunky Hispanic who could out-eat anybody under the table growing up.
Yeah.
Tell us about your childhood.
So I do want to bring it back because I want to dive more into this stuff and some other topics, of course, along your journey. But I want the audience to get to know you a little bit deeper. Yeah. So now we know where your family reigns from. You're from a pretty lot of siblings. Yeah. Which is pretty gnarly. So take us back. You were born and raised here, correct?
Yeah. Born and raised here,
so tell us about that journey from childhood to now a little bit more. Like growing up and all that good stuff. What the household was like and whatnot.
Yeah. Growing up, it was really, really, really blessed is what I got to say. Wasn't like my parents were well off or anything like that. We had times we're on, food stamps and something like that. My brother, who's only 14 months older than me, went through over a half dozen open heart surgeries as a baby. Quite literally died on the table as a baby. Quite literally a miracle. Like there's a massive, massive story behind that. Quite even to where somebody from England was brought. She was a artist who came to Nashville because she thought, well, for one, she was told to pray for somebody named Harmony, which was my mother's name, and she just did not know why at all. And she came to Nashville because she thought she was there for music. And when she was going through the airport, and this is late 90s, early 2000s, all of her tapes got wiped in the the scanner and everything like that. She's like, I have no clue, what I'm here for now. And she just popped into some random church and somehow spotted my mother out in the car and was like, wait, that's Harmony. Don't ask me, don't ask me how. Don't ask me how. And she just walked up and said, this child that you're bearing, like she says, the devil's going to try to take this, but he will not succeed. And my brother was born, for about, the first 6 months.
How'd your mom take that? Has she recalled?
Yeah.
Because some people will be like, what the hell are you saying?
Yeah. And my mother's always been a very spiritual person, but she was just kind of like, okay. Kind of didn't think too much of it. So my brother was okay, for the first little bit, and then started having, heart complications and everything, and just set off a whole year, 2 years of probably the biggest struggle my family had to go through. And they're balancing having my dad to work, at this point, I'm kid number 5, so they've got 4 kids. My brother's in the hospital for quite literally almost 2 years straight kind of thing. Yeah. So that was, on food stamps, sending the kids to relatives and stuff like that. And so many open heart procedures, and myself, I was almost a failed pregnancy. Just a lot of like complications through that. And when I was kind of like me and my brother, kind of like I was able to almost save my brother a little bit.
Where are you at in this sibling union?
5 out of 13. 5 out of 13.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you're on the upper range.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think too when you're talking about all these difficulties. Like they had a lot more kids after this.
Yeah, a lot more kids. A lot. Yeah.
Your mom's like, that was risky, but let's have another.
Yeah, she's like, we made it through. Well,
yeah,
we're about to have to take a break real quick, but before we do, we have like 10 seconds. But the woman that was told to pray for Harmony, was she meant to just be like a message to her, or does she come back into the?
kind of just a message, I would say. Yeah.
What did she end up doing?
I actually don't know on her story. I'd have to ask my mother for a little bit more of the details, but it was just like a little like precursor to the whole thing.
Be interested to know where that woman's at now.
Yeah. Get on the podcast. Like, what's up with your visions? Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Desert Rose Arts. Check out at Desert Rose. Excuse me. Check out at Desert Rose Arts on Instagram. My friend Danny, she makes these one-of-a-kind handmade pieces. There's 2 runes in each bead. There's 108 beads. She's got different styles, different colors, all with different meaning. And these runes help charge your ancestral power and your ancestral spirit. So if this is for you, if you love handmade work and you want to show some support, and for some awesome pieces, I wear 2 of them every single day. I love them. I can feel them, and they're charged with so much intention, and I really appreciate her work and what she does. So if you're interested in that, and I feel like you should just get one anyways, because you want to support her, and it's a small business, and it's something, there's not a lot that's handmade these days, like people just don't care about that. They don't want to put that work in. They want to just order it from China. Well, we don't do that. Danny doesn't do that. She makes them by hand. So show her some love and use code RP15 at checkout for a discount. Thank you.
And if you want to sponsor the show, let us know. Okay, bye.
Damn it, China's going to shut us down, dude. Photographer does it like for all the novels. He wants to come
Golden?
Yeah, I was talking to him about coming on the podcast.
That'd be good.
Yeah, dude, I'll just like stack my books up that he's shot. And
Just do the episode naked.
Yeah, I'll be like, oh, this is just a photo shoot.
Okay, so we were right in some good stuff.
Yeah.
You were talking about your brother. And
Yeah. The family.
Yeah.
Also, just want to throw in there one time real quick. While you're telling this, I would love to know, too, kind of how the culture and your parents and that kind of thing still intertwined as you were going through, as you were growing up. But you were talking about your brother.
Yeah, so my brother going through probably, like I said, about 6 open heart surgeries. Myself, I had my pregnancy had like a lot of complications, stuff like that, a lot of internal bleeding. Doctors at Vandy were like, not if, but when this baby passes, like, bring him in and stuff like that. Yeah,
Wow.
for myself as well. And my mother literally just like, she completely rejected that and just went on bed rest for like 3 weeks. And, thankfully I was brought through, thankfully. And when I came, my brother was they were just like, pumping him full of IVs and stuff like that. He couldn't keep anything down, lost a whole bunch of weight. Like at 1 year old, he was like the size of almost like, almost preemie, something like that. Yeah.
Jeez, at 1 year old.
Scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing, is like he just needs like to put weight on. And, mother, when they're, coming right to, term, they've got that, that beautiful, newborn breast milk, which is super nutrient rich.
Yeah.
So the timing of myself, 14 months, right after my brother actually saved his life. Because he was able to go back to breastfeeding and that stuff. It's just like straight chugging, supercharged fatty electrolytes and all the good stuff. So
That makes sense.
both kind of,
Like him coming along, and that's interesting.
yeah, it's just crazy, like the way that things were timed and everything like that,
nuts.
intertwined and everything like that. There's definitely God's hand in that, because, like I said, he actually in my father's arms died, and my father just saw the life go out of him. But yeah, thankfully they were able to bring him back, and both of us been really, really, really close all of our lives and stuff like that. So
Have like a particular connection with him because of that saga?
just it's funny because for him, being in the hospital, and he's got a pacemaker now, all sorts of stuff, and he's very much had a fighting spirit. He's a black belt as well.
Nice.
And while he's not allowed to like physically fight, he's, you know, a master of the katas, the forms and stuff like that. And he might not be able to fight, but he definitely wallops on me a lot.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, hey, come over here.
You're like, it feels like a fight to me.
I had to get that out. Sorry.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's funny because, you know, those, you know, who are the strongest people somehow tend to, you know, get the most, you know, challenges or something like that. So it's been, you know, a very, very much of like a balance, because since he's got such a strong fighting spirit, got a very like strong, hard personality, I would say. And he's needed that, you know, to quite literally to survive and stuff like that. But being able, you know, just being 14 months from him, able to, you know, help balance that out, you know, just a little bit, you know, and, you know, hard for, you know, somebody who's been in the hospital the whole life, you know, and not able to participate in a lot of stuff, to be able to, you know, kind of like help, you know, reintegrate and everything like that.
Yeah, because some people, you know, like there's two sides of that. Some people's mindsets suffer. Some people's don't, you know, a smaller percentage don't. But he's taken it for what it is.
Yep.
And he's made the best of that, and he's able to like strengthen his mind through it all, you know, and like at the end of the day, you had that hand that's dealt to you, right? You're fated to these things, and it's, do you harness that, or do you like try to fight against it your whole life and end up, you know, crashing and burning? Yeah. So he's sounds like he's turned all of this into a positive, and you know, for prime example, like you find so much inspiration through him and that journey,
so much.
And that's a huge deal just in itself. And I'm sure your whole family is inspired by his what he's overcome and who he is through it all. So 100%. I think it's wonderful.
100%, and he's been inspiration for others as well who've gone through a lot of, you know, hard medical stuff and like that as well. You know, to quite literally go through, you know, not just over a half dozen open heart surgeries, but I mean, we're talking, you know, his whole life.
So that's what I was about to ask you. You said he was in the hospital pretty much constantly for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then what did he kind of deal with growing up? You said he couldn't participate in certain things, obviously.
Just, and sports and stuff like that, you know, it's just having so much, you know, open heart surgeries, had to have a pacemaker, went through a lot of, you know, arrhythmia type, you know, heartbeats and everything like that. So
did he continue to have like actual like issues for a while?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Autoimmune, you know, stuff that like hits the, you know, the adrenals and stuff like that. So, but he's definitely, you know, kept positive, you know, just done what he does what he can. And
that's all you can do.
It's all you can do.
You have two options.
Yeah.
Do or don't.
Yeah. And what you were saying, you know, like kind of like the, with the culture and, you know, how that plays out. My grandfather always had a saying, you know, todo para la familia, everything for the family. And we would have not gotten through that if it wasn't for the family. I myself personally have a big bone to pick with modern, you know, North American culture because of just the super hyper individualistic thing that we have. And that's not how humans live. That's not how humans thrive at all. And to have the rest of our clan, the rest of our, you know, relatives really helped us through that situation a lot. You know, like I said, we were on food stamps at that point, you know, and stuff like that. So just having the community, the support system, you know, it wasn't just the relatives, it was the church, it was friends, it was everyone pitching in to help with that. That was the thing that got us through that, and, you know, through any forms of hard times. So
I'll tell you what, like I'm going through my accident, same thing. I mean, so many people. I had such an amazing support system.
You had that one time where you talk about how I think it was from the donations or something, but you got emotional about it.
Even with like the romance, you know, I'm on the romance novel. This is where the Sweet Pea name stemmed from. But you know, that community came together and raised like $40,000 for me in like a matter of a couple of weeks, man. And I was just like in tears. I was overwhelmed that these people came together. But yeah, the amount of support I had, I mean, that just goes so far. So I get it. I mean, even, you know, there's a lot of my relatives are spread out, but I'm really close to my family. I do like my alone time. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But, community is everything, man. You know, like if everybody's so individualized and spread out and like they don't focus on that, then man, there's so much lost, dude. And I believe in like the traditional way, 110% of community and family. So,
so you can kind of get more into your childhood too through this question, but I am actually, we were making a joke about it earlier, but I actually am curious, like they went through all of those things. In Colombia and South American culture, typically bigger families are a thing, or no?
No, the most definitely are. Unfortunately, just because of the Western mentality that is being lost. So
Even in South America?
Yeah, even in South America. Yeah. I mean, globally, birth rates are
Right.
declining and everything like that. So it's still there, but it is disappearing, where it's just not to the level that we're at right now. And that's a big thing that I've been focusing on recently is community and group fitness.
Right.
Yeah.
That's community right there. So after all that, had a pretty normal childhood, I would say, well, as normal as can for being one of 13. And
So that's what I was going to ask real quick.
Yeah.
So even after all those struggles,
Yeah.
they didn't question at all continuing to have children?
No. My mother actually was on track to be like a professional ballet dancer, like model, actor type, ballet in Chicago. Like I'm talking like, high level ballet, but she always wanted to be rich in family and in kids, not in, the big Brentwood house and, the
She
Lexus
fulfilled
and
that.
everything like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, exactly. So
I love that rich in family. That's
Yeah.
a great way to put that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the ancient way of doing things, I think pivoting our cultural idea, so many people think of children as a burden. And if you go into, all the ancient stories in the ancient way, they are assets and they are the things that build everybody up. And the idea of the nuclear family, that is not where I think our focus should be. It should be fully in the community. The nuclear family is the last resort. And if you got into the nuclear family, then you're pretty much lost at that point.
Yeah.
Because, let's say, you've got a farm, a ranch or anything like that. You're all working it. All of the people who are on there are pretty much as family,
Yeah.
You've got the relatives and then the whole community, participates in that. And that interconnectedness is how people thrive. Versus nowadays you pivot that to the hyper ideal, individualistic and everything like that. All fine and dandy until something like pandemic hits. And you take everybody and you lock them all indoors and like, okay, we want to, get rid of community. We want to get rid of this ancient way of living, which we pretty much already have.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take it to its end degree.
Yeah.
And
Everyone
lock you
gets
in your house.
Yeah, lock you in your house. Exactly. You can't get any further than that. And then everybody's mental health just completely plummets.
Yes, goes downhill fast,
Completely
man.
plummets. Exactly.
And it's interesting you talk about that too, about the family aspect of it, man. And not only that, but the children give you purpose.
They do.
And I hate it, man. I mean, I one thing I was noticing recently is like all of my friends that I'm really close to, they want children.
Yep.
I don't really connect with people that are like, oh, I can't deal with the crying and stuff.
Right.
Like, I just think it's not natural to not. I think it's part of who we are to reproduce and bring children in this world.
Yeah.
Now, like if you don't want them, then please don't, because like
Yeah.
we got
Right.
enough
Yeah, that's
kids
a great
that have
point
been
right there.
we've got enough children that have been damned into this world because of people, just selfishly just having them or like being like,
Yeah,
oh God,
yeah.
I guess I will. You know what I'm saying? But I think,
Like something to do.
you need to be intentional towards it.
Yeah.
But I hate when people just like act like it's such an inconvenience. Dude, my baby, she screams and cries. She's been sick the last few days. I had her all day yesterday. She's got to go to the doctor today. We might have to go to the hospital and all this stuff. And it's like, it sucks. But at the same time, like I would do anything for her. And she gives me purpose, man, like, and fuels me so much more. So I just, dude, I can't wrap my mind around the modern mindset of that.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll figure it the hell out.
Yeah.
Who knows? Probably not.
Well, I think we will, because you're with any form of culture, ideology, or anything like that, there's always going to be an endpoint, and it fractures all the way into that endpoint. And I think, the roots of where we're at right now, culturally and stuff like that, can be traced all the way back to like, Enlightenment period, where you start to see just the roots of the spiritual and the physical start to get pulled apart. And with that, it flows downstream from that.
Yeah.
Everything flows downstream from that. And then we've kind of reached the end point of that. Like we really don't have anywhere else to go. So
But from that, there's an awakening. There's
Exactly.
Like, the golden age
A
comes
reset.
back, right?
Yeah, exactly. A pushback, a cultural shift and everything like
That
that.
pendulum, dude, it's always one way or the other.
And here, where it's happening is young men.
Yeah.
Young men, and especially post-pandemic, because like you said, we need purpose. And, one way to think of children instead of them as a liability is they're almost like your weapon, i.e., it's almost like you're given a quiver of arrows and they're sharpened, they're refined, and then you're shooting them out into the world.
Yeah.
That's not a complete analogy, but
no,
it's a way to think of it.
The child is the arrow.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. And, you're sharpening, you're raising them, you're training them, and then you shoot them out into the world. And then, that to create change and to bring order to everything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In order, there's a Vedic word for it. I'm getting tattooed across my stomach. It's called Rita, which stands for order and ties all that in. And that's something I'm huge on. The natural way, dharma, all those things. And, there's something, and the thing is nowadays we have to build community. We have to be intentional towards making community and going back to old things, right?
Yeah.
And bringing that alive. There's a saying my guys and I say all the time, we say men against time, and
that's good.
What we do is have created our own, one, bring your spiritual community back to life.
Yep.
What all do you offer? And so if you didn't know, I got the Hari. I got my brothers in that, and we got we're taking an oath together, and we gather, we do ritual, but there's so much more to that. We hold certain standards, but there's so much to be said about things like that. And I think the more people focus on their community and their culture and bring those things to life, I think we can start to see, that golden age come upon us.
Yeah, exactly. And like with the young man, when he loses purpose, he delves into the passions. And the passions is the modern word for it is vices, but vices is not a complete, because the ancient understanding of the passions and the virtues, they're almost two sides of the same coin. So the passions are the bodily needs, but when they become in excess or they're not controlled,
that's degenerate actions and whatnot.
Exactly. Like you need to eat, but if you don't control that, if you don't fulfill it correctly, it becomes gluttony. You need to sleep, but if you don't control that, it becomes sloth. It becomes laziness.
You need to have sex, but then become addicted to porn. That's just
it turns into lust.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then,
when the person doesn't have purpose, then they're just going to go straight into that, and that purpose is going to be the driving motivation for a guy. And you said brotherhood is a big thing about that, because the ancient way is the guy is the leader, and then everything flows from that. Now the leader should not be tyrannical.
No,
Right.
The
Balance
leader
again,
is someone to lead is to serve.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. And to serve, just like my father had 13 kids, and he figured out that sacrificial love was the most fulfilling thing on earth. And my father was always just very much of a quiet kind of, I wouldn't say stoic, but just a quiet, still presence.
Yeah.
And I never really realized it until we're all sitting down, and most all of us are grown up, and the house is full of life.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that we can create, and is life. And I'm just like, there's one man right here who's responsible for it all.
That's
and,
crazy.
I kind of asked him a secret. He's like, yeah. He's like, I just prayed for sacrificial love. And when you sacrifice, that brings forth life, and life, provides meaning and everything like that.
Dude, I love that you're saying this, because I got a room, a space I built up at the house, and I do every week I do sacrifice. To me, my offering is always blood. So I got little cut marks on my arm. No, nothing's wrong with me. That's just me. When I'm praying, I'm in meditation. I offer my blood, one, to rid things of myself of negative ways or things that are maybe holding me back in life to being the best version of myself. I really manifest that and to understand, and I offer that to the gods. I'm like, give me guidance, and things like that. But I think sacrifice is the greatest way to move forward and bring life and bring things to fruition.
100%.
And that's just, maybe, people be like, oh, no, you're just cutting your arm. But no, that to me, it's symbolic. And symbolism is massive, because symbolism's in everything. So you may not think it's that significant, but symbolism's in everything you watch, everything you do, everything that's on TV, and it has a bigger effect than you realize.
Yep.
So, man.
So I want to ask you a question to kind of push your story forward a little bit.
I know, we're going
to go.
Jesus, we're going to have to do this a couple
I'm
times.
going to go do this.
This is great.
Connected.
Yeah, this is fantastic stuff.
Exactly.
But so you said that men, whenever they lose their passion or don't have passion, they fall into their
into the vices, the
into the
passions,
vices,
and
right.
exactly.
So kind of take us a little bit of a fast forward version. We were talking about your childhood, but my question for you is, do you know that from experience?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah,
So tell us about
exactly. Yeah.
Good question, Logan.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So for myself, growing up, getting through high school and everything like that, like I said, I was, the overweight Hispanic kid who, could eat everybody under the table. I didn't
overweight are we
have
talking?
purpose. I was like about 60 pounds overweight or something like that.
Okay.
So, and met a guy in the Nissan factory when I was working there, Bryson Crowder, who's a local massage therapist here.
How old were you at the time?
Probably like 20, I would
Okay.
say something like
Cool.
that. Yeah, exactly. The one thing I had going for me was that I loved martial arts, and I started to work out with him and everything like that.
Were you into that in high school and stuff and growing up?
Well, he's homeschooled.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
I know.
Speaking of, and
Yeah.
not to
That's
segue, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
But like that's something my wife and I want to do with our children. Homeschooling, 100%. We're big on that.
It's
So you were
absolutely
into
amazing.
those sports at the time, but you hadn't gotten into it physically yet, or
Yeah. So I mean, like raised through the martial arts, and my goal was to be a kind of like a pro MMA fighter. So
you were deep into it at that point.
I was already pretty deep into it. So started the journey of weight loss and started ordering my life in the physical realm, i.e., with working out, with, doing martial arts and everything like that. But it was not sustainable. I was doing, 2 martial art classes a day, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, conditioning, strength workout, and all that stuff, and ran my body into the ground and lost the passion for just competing at a pro level. I think I've really found my passion for martial arts in teaching. And it's absolutely amazing because you're able to teach. Teaching children is just one of the biggest blessings on earth. But moving forward into that,
Well, real
ordering,
quick, where do you go? Where do you go to a pro MMA career? Like, where does that even pop up in your mind? I know you were in martial arts, but
I think it's just that drive for competition, especially with with a lot of brothers and stuff like that. It's just a natural thing.
you just wanted to go to the highest level.
Yeah.
And some people make world champions, but those don't make the best teachers. Some people
Facts.
never
That's a
become a
fact.
world champion, but they become greater teachers than any of them.
That's the
So,
case in a lot of sports too. A lot of the greatest coaches are not players.
Yeah, exactly.
you know where you're gifted. Yeah.
Yeah. So after I gave up on being a pro martial artist, kind of delved, and I had a lot of great mentors who were telling me to avoid the obstacles, i.e., the passions, the pitfalls, and everything like that. So I didn't really delve into that, 20, 21, 22. But after I lost the kind of like that little purpose and that order, that's when I started to just, video games, smoking weed, just check the boxes all the way down.
Yeah.
Just like all of our young men today. And because I didn't have that purpose to guide me, and just started falling into the passion. So 100% from, experience. And I started to get into like modeling a little bit. That was a segue into my journey of art. And we'll get onto that a little bit. But that wasn't a deep enough fulfilling thing. Modeling is very, very, very superficial. I'm still trying to figure out what place that has in my life. So I did that for a couple of years, but just kept slowly falling deeper and deeper, kind of like into the passions, into excess. And then what happens is when you don't have purpose and when you're not connected spiritually, you've got what I describe as the pain of the soul. And you use it and we all seen that meme of where you're taking like a little piece of tape, slapping it on a 5
Yeah,
gallon.
the flex tape.
Yeah, the flex tape.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you're just using these passions to take, any form of depression, anxiety, all these things. The human body, and in my personal belief, is made up of, the 3 components, the mind, the body, the spirit. And it's a 3-way street. And everything that you intake, in that 3-way street
It all
affects who you are.
intersects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It all intersects, And so myself started, I was raised Protestant, kind of pretty much every flavor you can think of. And it wasn't fulfilling enough. It wasn't deep enough for me. So went off into kind of like an ultra Messianic Jew sect, I would say, just trying to like chase down the deeper things in the spiritual. And that kind of started my journey. And I left that just some bad teachings and all that good stuff. But it kind of started to open my mind a little bit to the deeper part of the spiritual, like, and how that connects with the physical and the mind and everything like that. And after I left that, I was basically just, and this is me being a fitness coach for a couple of years. After I lost 60 pounds, I got that passion to teach fitness, and that was absolutely amazing. So I started as a coach at Orange Theory in 2018. Little 20-year-old, whippersnapper kid. Yeah. Don't ask me why they let me into it. I actually got a good story about that. I basically mopped my way into it. So, like a good Hispanic, I mopped my way into it.
I'm going to work my way up.
He said, like a good Hispanic, I mopped my way into it.
Grand opening day. I'm helping them, like after I've done my interview, but I wasn't hired yet, I'm helping them, stack, chairs and stuff like that. I'm in the newspaper photo. I'm like, what up? I'm helping mop and everything.
He's like,
That's
yeah,
so
exactly.
funny.
Like, who's this guy? So,
got like a mustache and shit.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to a personal training conference in New York, and then they called me and they brought me in for open mic audition, and just attacked it with a lot of energy. And that's probably the biggest thing I can say for anybody who's doing any form of interview or audition or anything like that, is just be a little bit over dramatic, be a little bit energetic, not saying being fake, but take your personality and kind of dial it up a little bit, take that energy that's within you like a stage actor, and like you're trying to fill a room.
What's crazy is too, when you're kind of like, you're not putting on an act, but you are in a sense. And when you do that, you actually like become a lot more comfortable. It reminds me of a speech class I took in college, my very first class, in like the public speaking, right? Tough for everybody. I did a speech where I was like, you had to make up like an address, a public address, and I decided to be Frodo addressing Middle Earth, because after the movie, at the end,
Nice.
it kind of comes to a close. But I did like this little Hobbit like accent, and I pointed at my professor, and I was like, "Oh, Gandalf, you took us on," and he was like,
You just went with it.
Afterward, he was like, "Have you ever thought about acting classes?" And I was like, "No," but it was just like, but once I just did that and I just brought this energy into it, I just flowed with it, man. I didn't give a shit what anybody around me thought, any of the other kids. So it's cool what you're saying. That it's just like you brought that energy. And it got you the spot.
Yep.
And that's your biggest suggestion there for others looking to like break into something interview wise or whatever. Bring big energy to it. If someone doesn't like it, then that's probably not the right fit anyways.
Exactly.
Well, I think go all in on it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Same kind of thing that you're saying. It's like with you, you're like, okay, you're like, oh, shit, how should I do it? And you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna, Gandalf, and now you're there, and now you're good because you're bringing you're bringing it to that level. So
more energy versus left energy. Yeah.
And
Always.
I'm curious, like, so you started the spiritual journey.
Yeah, I was
at
gonna-
one point.
that's my
So
point, too.
were you still on this journey while you were coming into Orange Theory? Or?
Yeah.
So you went like on a whole, like you're like trying to find faith basically.
Yeah.
I mean, you had faith before, but you're trying to find which one connects to you. Like you're on a whole spirit war type situation.
100%. Yeah. So I coached at Orange Theory for 3 years from 2018 to 2021. Made it through the pandemic, mostly intact. And that going through the pandemic, all the gyms shut down and everything like that. And that was a thing where I really started just going into a lot of like, just video games, at what everybody did, in the pandemic, just diving, into the passions and stuff like that. Was able to, kind of like temporarily pull myself out of that once the gyms open back up. People think personal trainers are perfect. No, we're not perfect, or anything like that. We're just, we struggle, but, we when you're able to overcome struggles, you're able to teach others as well. So I've always taken anything that I've learned and used it to like help others or something like that. So everything that I do, I always try to base it off of personal experience.
Always a lesson, yeah.
Always. And personal experience is the best teacher ever. So
I think that's where your instinct comes from too.
Yeah.
Like whenever you feel an instinct, that's like a combined amount of knowledge and experience that you've had.
Exactly. So left Orange Theory because I coached myself into the ground, and coaching at Murfreesboro, Franklin, Spring Hill 7 days a week, just coached myself into the ground. And actually was kind of like losing myself a little bit because it's very much like being a little bit of a stage actor, because when you're helping people in fitness and you're taking them from that place of extreme isolation and them just, using the passions over eating or whatever it is, and you're trying to bring them in to change their life, you need to motivate them. You need to energize them. So it's a transference of energy. And if you're not careful, you can become a method actor to where that it's like putting on a shirt, when you're like a stage actor, or anything like publicly, it can become you. And if you're not grounded yourself, then you lose that sense of identity of who you are. So I kind of like coached myself. You could have tattooed the word coach across my chest, by the end of it. And, it was good because it got me very, very, very good at
You kind of lost what you are. You kind of lose who you are in that.
Yeah.
You were just a coach. You were just a
exactly.
coach.
I was just a
trainer.
coach completely and nothing else. So I left that and went food trucking for my brother for a couple of years. And then that kind of like kicked off like where I was really diving deep into like the spiritual journey thing and everything like that. And thank goodness for podcasts, because podcasting while you're food trucking is absolutely amazing. You're driving all around the state, and just getting back into the isolation versus community, I was able to experience something very, very, very awesome. And that is food is the vehicle in which people commune together. So when the pandemic hit, everyone is isolated and they take food for granted because you go to restaurants, family gatherings, holidays, any form of ritual. The first, sacrifices in the Bible was, Cain and Abel with the food. And it's the way that it's the delivery vehicle of communion.
Yeah.
So what happens when you shut down all the restaurants, when you shut down all the public gathering spaces, that community wiped off the map, and then everybody's completely locked in, and then you go from the food being the vehicle of communion to it's being dropped off on your front doorstep, and you're not even saying hi to your Uber Eats driver.
Yeah, and then they knock when it says "Don't knock, baby is asleep," and your dog barks, and you're like,
and then you're taking it and
just
watching Netflix and just using it as consumption.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when we're rolling up as food truckers, we're able to almost be like pirates. We call ourselves land pirates. The highways are open waters. We take people's money, but we're nice pirates, so we give them food. Being able to pull up to apartment complexes and having everybody that's locked in, and then you come there and you're almost like a little beacon of joy or something like that, because you get 20, 30 people line up. And you are giving food and exchanging emotion, exchanging energy.
Yeah.
And every single human needs what's called bumps of social well-being. You get this from when you go into your, Starbucks drive-thru, and you get that one person who's on top of it, and they brighten your day because they're an awesome server or something like that. Or you get it, all the way up into ritual. And, if you're an extrovert, you need more bumps of social well-being. If you're an introvert, it doesn't mean you don't need it. It just means you need less of it.
Yeah.
So when you take all community away, there is no bumps of social well-being at all. And then, we all just completely suffer because we're extremely isolated. And this is, why I don't like postmodernism or anything like that, because it's all boils down completely to hyper-individual and isolation. But when you pull up, to these apartment complexes and you're able to start doing that social well-being, bringing joy to people, and the food is the delivery vehicle, and they can taste the love that you've put into the food and everything like that. And we're taking something from since I'm Colombian empanadas, it's culture, it's love, it's food. It's something that we've lost a lot in America.
And you're sharing it with the world.
Exactly. We're sharing it with all of Middle Tennessee, and that was an absolutely amazing thing. And then personally for myself, it's given me some time to where I'm not, in the rat race of coaching nonstop 24/7. And it's a little bit of a slower pace of life.
Yeah, it's just like a break.
Yeah, exactly. I needed a break. So I'm sitting here podcasting. And I got to talking to a guy in the Nutrition Factory, local supplement store. And we're talking about giants. Oh, yeah. Beautiful stuff. Everybody loves to talk about giants. It's amazing. Yeah.
They play a part in most spiritual backgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. Almost all of them. So
Did you see that video a few months ago where the guy thought he saw a giant on the side of the mountain?
I know. I haven't seen that yet.
It was like anyway, it blew up for some reason. People were like, no, that's the clearest footage we've ever seen. And then somebody went on a satellite, it's a fucking cell phone tower.
Yeah.
But,
So
anyways.
So I'm talking with him about giants, and I'm going through this whole like ultra messianic Jew, where it's kind of like exploring ancient Jewish texts and stuff like that, which has got stuff, Book of Enoch, all sorts of stuff about giants, about spirits, angels, all that good stuff. I'm getting into the weeds of things now, because I'm chasing down that truth, I'm chasing down that spirituality. And he's keeping up with me beat for beat on it. And I'm like, wait. I know I'm in something off the beaten path. I'm like, where are you getting this from? And he's like, oh, yeah, this is a podcast about two Eastern Orthodox priests who are going in on it. And I left that whole sect. It was kind of, a little cultish. But
It wasn't the right fit.
No, yeah, it definitely wasn't the right fit.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, a lot of people don't feel anything spiritual when I went through it and got baptized, and I just had this little like premonition it was off or something like that. And then I, just started chasing it down in the knowledge realm. And then I was like, okay, this is not right. So I just left it.
Okay.
And when I'm food trucking, I'm listening to these two Orthodox priests going in on like the whole spiritual realm and everything like that. So
what does that mean, Orthodox priest?
So yeah. And this leads into where I'm currently at. The Orthodox Church, like you've got, the original churches in the New Testament, Antioch, Alexandria, all of those.
Yeah.
Original church was together for 1,000 years and decided to have a divorce over doctrinal stuff and political.
Creative differences.
Yeah, creative differences. We'll call it that. We'll call that. So they divorced, and now no ill will towards our Catholic friends, but I kind of like to say that the Catholics were kind of like the daddy one and go out and get milk and never came back, and the Orthodox are kind of ones who stayed home. So you'll find a lot of Eastern Orthodoxy in Eastern Europe, in Africa, and then Asia Minor and stuff like that. And they're very much the ritual, like you've been talking about, like same rituals since straight from like their churches that are like straight from the New Testament, still around to this day. And I'm talking same buildings.
Yeah.
Have been doing the same rituals for 2,000 years. And they still have a ancient Christian cosmic perspective of the world, which is almost impossible to find. Like, I mean, fully spiritual.
What would you say that is? Or how would you explain that, I guess you could say?
Yeah, that's
I was curious because you said this the other day, and I was like, what does he mean?
Yeah. So the idea, obviously, so you get into like Enlightenment period and then German philosopher, and they very, very much start intellectually trying to break apart text, like, studying hermeneutically and separating the spiritual from the physical. And this is where we get our ultra materialistic world from Enlightenment period onward. And the ancient Christians have never thought that way. The idea that spirits are animating forces that animate people from a small, personal scale to large movements to even ages, zeitgeist, which is like the spirit of the age, which is, an animating force of an ideology that is ordering the cosmos. So within the idea that spirits, work at every single level, that they, with the cosmos and everything like that.
Yeah.
You go all the way back into ancient Chinese sources. They would offer sacrifices to heaven, which is, and looking through translations, awfully similar to the same description of the God in the Old Testament. You go all the way back into the beginning of Egyptian sources, it's like, the horse, the all-seeing eye, Native American and stuff like that. All of them have a very, very similar description of God and of the cosmos. We were talking about giants and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
And when you are referring to giants, are you referring to like Nephilim?
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, the OG giants. We're talking pre-flood. Yeah. Just like every single culture has a flood story. Well, the idea is
ancient Samaria, all that.
Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Nephilim were the half human, half gods, and sometimes it's translated, I guess, that way.
Yeah. So usually it's through a spiritual union is what the Babylonians called it the Apkallu, the Greeks called them the Titans and everything like that. There's every single one of them almost got that, and they were, some people worship them as gods, some people thought of them as like half god, half man or stuff like that.
The Titans were the kids of the Greek gods, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So not to get too much, into the weeds of that, but when you trace all of these religions back to their earliest part, they all have a very, very similar understanding of God. And the ancient question was whether or not do we follow God? The modern question is whether or not God exists. So what's happened is the distance between man and God has become so far that we are all the way into the flat material. So having an ancient Christian cosmic understanding means a fully integrated view of the cosmos between man, God, angels, demons, like everything.
All tied together.
Tied together.
It sounds like Krishna in the Vedas, right? Krishna is like that power, that God. You know, I think translations of the Vedas since have like pulled away from that and like honed in on specific gods more so. But like, you know, there's a thing called Krishna consciousness, right? And understanding that God is everything tied in between, you know, and those are just like, the gods are a part of God still, but they're not God. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
That's like a Christian thing. God is everywhere, or God is everything. That's something that.
And the Eastern Orthodox prayers, you pretty much start every single service is saying, you know, that the the Holy Spirit is in all places and fills all things. Because when we think about it as, you know, spirits as animating forces, when man decides not to follow God, he cuts himself off his spiritual life force, because man is the only one who has a living soul. You know, animals have souls, but they're on, you know, a more primitive scale, you know, and we're talking about, you know, angelic forces or any more deities, you know, they have, you know, they're, you know, vast cosmic intelligences that, you know, control nature and, you know, the running of the cosmos and everything like that. Well, mankind is the mediator between heaven and earth, you know, is the Orthodox understanding of that. So when we go into the subject of man, with mankind being the mediator, there's the ancient Taoist description of order and chaos. So order is going to be the thing that unifies things together, and this is on every single level, and you know, all the transcendental categories, fractal patterns. You can think of everything as fractal patterns. This one is multiple things, but through identity has been brought together into the order, into the singular. Well, if you look into the ancient Taoist perspective, into the ancient Christian perspective, heaven and earth is the symbolism of order and chaos. Chaos is not necessarily a bad thing.
Correct.
It's necessary.
Chaos is exactly.
Creativity. All creativity comes from chaos.
All creativity comes from chaos, and creativity is part of man creating order.
Right.
The key word, creating. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're taking a whole multiple, of a chaotic multiplicity and bringing it into one and bringing it into something new and providing it with identity and a new perspective on how to look at things.
Chaos creates order.
Yep. Exactly.
Without chaos, order is rigidity.
Well, I've got a book, not to interrupt, but I got a book called Syncretic Indo-European Faith. And it's really suggested it to people because they're like, well, what exactly do you believe in? Because they just think, Vikings, Odin, and, I worship the gods in that sense, but like that's very closed in perspective. That's the Germanic aspect. But when you tie in like the Indo-European paganism, it all ties in. So the Vedas tie in with the Germanic stuff and so on. Yeah. And so a good word for it is like Vedic heathenism. But it talks about that chaos and order. So everybody wants to look at things in this material way as like good or bad.
Right.
Good fighting evil. But you look at the gods such as like, you look at Loki, right? Loki's not evil. Everybody assumes he's evil because of Marvel movies. Yeah. But
he's
Loki,
a good guy in Marvel.
Yeah, now he is.
Let me finish. No, he's looked at as like a bad guy in certain movies, right? Because he's always doing all this mischievous stuff. But Loki is chaos, and from Loki's actions becomes order after that, right? Order is brought to everything. So that's it's the same concept. I think we create the heroes and the bad guys though in order to like, I don't know how you explain it, but like.
Well, that's how
we connect with things. Yeah, that's how stories come in and everything like that. So,
probably why I got started in film school. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's jumping ahead a little bit, but yeah. So
shit. We're not even in film school yet.
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah. So, when we understand that, the order and the chaos, heaven and earth is a multiple layers of that order and chaos. It's a fractal pattern. And then mankind is put at the top of that. And, that we're supposed to, care for and create order within the whole world. And we're the intermediary between heaven and earth. Well, when mankind steps down from that, then that's where chaos, the multiplicity, everything starts to happen. And then you see this in society where people are not united in a single thing. And there's, like if you go in progressivism, it's endless groups of identity, taking the things that are at the end of order and chaos, and they're taking the strangeness and trying to bring that as the order. And when you do that, then you're taking out the order that binds things together, And just like, if you take a sewing group, what's the thing that binds a sewing group together? Everyone, knitting and everything like that. You can bring one person in, they're like, okay, yeah, but I want to play my guitar. Like, okay, perfect. You can bring in a little bit of, that chaos. But then they bring a friend in that's like, I want to, play, I want to play piano now. Well, if this happens, then that order ceases to exist, and then it dissolves. And then, then it goes back into that chaotic multiplicity. Well, man is supposed to create that order. And when we are united with our God, with our Creator, with our spiritual life force, then we are functioning at the optimal level, and we're creating that order as we're intended to be, and that provides purpose for us. So when you don't, and you get into the super hyper, individualistic passions and everything like that, that's why everything starts to unravel. Everything starts to go into that. Exactly. It's a complete ripple effect. Exactly. So that's what kind of like started my, spiritual journey and understanding the whole Eastern Orthodox perspective, and how everything, mind, body, spirit, is connected. So if man is the center of heaven and earth, that means that the human heart is the center of the universe. Because at the human heart, on each individual level, each person is supposed to be creating that order. And then if that heart is not in the right place, then on a cosmic scale, that whole ripple effect and everything like that through the, the physical, mental, and spiritual planes, that delves further and further and further into chaos. So looking at the human heart first, and with the guide being the leader, being the server, being the sacrificer, once you start focusing on your own human heart, going into your own, first getting, the purpose and, completely, reuniting yourself with your spiritual life force that is giving you life. I always like to say that spiritual life force is, kind of like the bond, between like, in marriage, man and woman, you experience that, that uniting, but that is like that, but at a deeper level. So if you hold, you tie a rope around your thumb long enough, it's going to fall off and die because it doesn't have the blood. It doesn't have the life force. Well, it's the same thing like that between a man and his creator. You get super isolated. You keep delving into the passions. You're going to feel that pain of the soul because that soul is crying out for its spiritual life force, for its creator, the thing that connects it together and gives it life. Yeah. Because we're the only ones who have life, in a living soul sense. So it's trying to reestablish that.
Interesting. Hell yeah, man. I love that too. And, in thinking on that, and you're talking about how, like, you talked about the individual aspect and the ripple effect of that as well. Mm-hmm. I'm big on like embracing your ancestors and your culture, right? And I think culture is a big part of our identity. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm nothing against people like coming together, diversity, whatever. Nothing against that. But I think what we've done, like especially in, Western culture today, is mash everybody together and then try to make them all think the same way. Yeah, yeah. But that's a big problem because genetically and for thousands of years we don't. Yeah. So everybody's trying to get somebody to think this way, and you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And then if you try to get everybody to start to get to people to think the same way and attack others for maybe not agreeing you for how you view things, well, then it's just constantly chaos. There is no order. Yeah. Instead of being like, hey, this is who I am. I embrace my people and our ways for this. Mm-hmm. You embrace your people and your ways for this. We can communicate and we can help each other and understand the fact that like we are, does that make sense?
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
100%.
So, but that's the thing. We've mashed people together too quick and been like, all right, y'all figure it out. And then it's just constant chaos. And it's like, this is why my guys and I get together in the woods because like one, you're connected with nature. There's a lot of aspects there too. And it's primal, but it also is like this place where we can go and just think the way we do, act the way we do, and uphold those traditions without anybody attacking that or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I think everybody should really think about that. Embrace.
We are saved in community.
Yes. Embrace their community, embrace their beginnings. And then I think we could thrive that way as
100%,
well.
100%.
And I'm curious your thoughts too, given you're very well read in your beliefs, and I appreciate that a lot, man. And
just getting started.
But
you're a lot more well read than most people. That's for sure.
And that's the thing. I think because me being pagan, I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah,
me being pagan, And, having to force myself to read into a lot of Christian texts and other different texts, because like people are going to come at you left and right and be like, that's the work of the devil. That's evil. And, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, what, I'm pagan, like I've got to back it up with knowledge. Like, actually, this is why I believe in what I do. And, most of the time people are just like, they don't really know what to say because they're kind of surprised that I know more than that. They think it because they think I believe out of ignorance, which is far from the fact. I know it's in my heart. And so I appreciate you for being so well read, because at least you're not doing it because someone told you to,
right?
Or someone thought that was the right way. You've got a solid foundation. So, and with that comes conviction, right? So if ever someone ever attacks you, you're like, no, I know what I stand for and believe in. Can most people say that? Because most people haven't had that foundation tested, So by seeking knowledge, you test your foundation and make sure it's concrete. If you're convicted. And that's the thing. Like if someone had a gun to your head, I said, this is somebody one time, like, maybe we're here to save you. I said, listen, you could pull your pistol out right now and put it in my head and put your finger on the trigger. And I will not change who I am.
Yeah.
You'd have to shoot me here in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And they were just like, damn. And like, that's true spiritual conviction, though. Do you truly stand for what you believe in? So I just got to say, I appreciate that you dove in and you stay the path and you just go deeper and deeper and deeper with it. But I do want to know, like, your thought process on like pagans and whatnot.
Yeah. So that's a complex, a nice complex thing, but, I myself been reading into it a little bit as well. What you said, with that spiritual conviction, this brings up a really, really good point. How do 12 men, half of them fishers and stuff like that, change the largest empire in the world? For it goes from a movement of 2,000 people to 350 million people, and completely reordering the structure of reality in 300 years. That's just one thing to think about.
Yeah.
And that's why I've gone to the ancient cosmic Christian route, is because never before in the history of the world has that happened. And I don't think we'll never see something like that again. So there's, there's a little bit, there's obviously something there that I've got to chase down. Now, the Orthodox understanding of the whole pagan world and everything like that is that if Christ is the truth, and the truth is the ordering principle of the world, you can see, we were talking about the fractal patterns and everything like that. Order, chaos. Well, order, chaos goes all the way up, heaven and earth. It goes all the way up to the ultimate highest good, which is going to be that ordering principle that is serving, because, in the Old Testament says, from the lamb was slain from the foundation of the world, that sacrifice brings forth life and everything like that. So going all the way up back to the source of that. And throughout history, from what we see is that God is a personal entity that humans commune with. So going into the whole idea of the whole cosmic perspective and everything like that. So the fundamental difference between ancient Christianity and paganism is that they don't worship the governing spirits that govern the cosmos, but we do interact with them. The saints, by having God born in us, participate in that, at the level of angels, so we don't just go to heaven and it's like, oh, flu, and everything like that. No. You participate in that ordering, but on a cosmic level. Yeah. So
I've never heard the afterlife put like that.
Yeah. And it's
an active thing.
Yeah. Oh, active participation.
I've never even heard that
100%.
before.
So one thing I do want to say is one with the completion thing, it's easy to, the thing is with especially the Indo-European stuff, right? It's really, you got to do research. A lot of people, they think, okay, I get the Rosetta, and that's what it's based off of that. Well, that was rewritten by a Christian.
Yeah, exactly.
In Iceland. It was translated by that. So, right, you got to take.
There's hardly any Viking stuff left, and anything that was left was basically, kept by the ancient, Viking Christians.
Yes, and that was a thing too. That was another thing to add on. So, Christianity was big in Europe at the time, right? And so obviously there's this power, we want this land, that. There was a lot of pagans were wiped out by, different, Christian aspects, right? And there was a lot of history erased. and it was taught that was evil. And so, because I was asked one time, well, why isn't it as big as Christianity is now? I was like, well, a lot of it was wiped out, man. A lot of people were killed and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was like Eastern Orthodox people or anything like that, but you had the Crusades and whatnot. You talk about St. Patrick. What was Ireland actually? What was that actually about? Like, it was literally about like pagan genocide.
Yeah.
So there's like
all South America was basically forced converted by the Catholics.
Yeah, exactly. So ancient ways have been like.
It's also very verbal, though, right? It's very verbal.
It's a lot of it's oral, oral tradition too.
Oral
so they didn't necessarily like write down things, but there's a part of that too that's like this mystery. Now, when you do dive deep into things and you connect all those Indo-European beliefs, you do see that there is that cosmic order. It just takes a lot of diving in.
It
A lot of
does.
people worship, you got different groups of people that worship like a specific god, right?
Yeah.
I honor all the gods as part of the ultimate god. Right.
Yeah.
So like, I don't just like worship Odin or Thor or whatever, like a lot, maybe farmers traditionally worship Thor because Thor protected the common folk and stuff like that. That was common. So that you got different groups or like villages or whatnot that like focus on a specific god and maybe worship that more and lost sight of the cosmic aspect.
It's very
of
similar
it.
in ancient Christianity. So you've got patron saints of, let's say, the oceans or of farming or of all these things, because when man goes into and participates in the whole counsel of God, then they're asking for their intercessions, for good crops and stuff like that, So
you're saying the patron saints are the versions of the smaller level gods that he's talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. So they're on the on the almost like on the level of angels. So it's participating in that whole cosmic order. So it's not worshiping them, but it is 100% interacting with them, and it is asking for their intercession, because they know that the power comes straight from God and flows through them all the way down to us, and that's very, very, very similar, to the pagan.
Exactly. So like I'll honor different gods for specific things, right? Because they, they're all a part of God. So the power flows through them specifically, these different, through these different avenues. Like when I'm like trying to attain knowledge, that's what Odin's known for. Odin sacrificed himself for the knowledge of the runes, right? And you draw that story, strength, Thor, or, Tyr or something like that. If I want to like focus on honor, if I want to focus on fertility, you got Frey and all that stuff. And so there's all those different things. So I think you're similarly, right? But like after really diving into my beliefs, because I was like, man, I don't want to just be this. I know there's more to it. And then actually feeling like, oh my God, all this stuff. You got the Indo-European migration from here to here. And like, that's actually the same as this. And you draw it all together. You do get the whole picture eventually that, oh man, these are all conduits to God. And my viewpoint is that everybody's got their conduit to God. I think God is at the center of it all. So whether you're pagan, whether you're Christian or whatever, you have your conduit, right? Christ is God. The gods in Germanic lore are to God,
Conduit,
stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like I said, like, if you go far enough back into any, pretty much almost any, any old world pagan, belief system or something like that, you're going to find something that looks very, very, very similar to, the God of the, the Old Testament. It's because, we're all part of the collective human experience and everything like that. So the Orthodox understanding is not, so a lot of people think if you bow to somebody, that's worship. That's not worship. Worship is sacrifice, because it requires, life force, and so honorance and reverence go to the saints, the angelic beings, and everything like that. But the sacrifice is the actual God, because he has sacrificed himself for us, and we are reconnecting ourselves with that spiritual life force in him. And he flows like through everything, through the whole cosmic created order and everything like that. So you will, if you go into an Orthodox church, you're going to, bow to and kiss, an icon of a saint or something like that. And that goes into the whole beauty thing. So,
doesn't mean you're worshiping it. You're
exactly. But, just straight asking them for their intercession, or, asking them for their help for this or for that, because it's a whole hierarchical system all the way right back up to God. And, you say you wanted to touch a little bit onto the film school. So coming into the Orthodox Church, I had the pleasure of taking a 6-month film course from Jonathan Jackson, who's a actor, and who's an Orthodox Christian as well, and was on General Hospital, Drama Nashville. And to be able to learn about beauty and art coming into the Orthodox Christianity was, I mean, completely mind-blowing. And I'm still trying to figure it out, but beauty is the thing that draws people in. And go into any of our big cities. They're ugly. They're really, really, really ugly.
Go to
Yeah,
like,
the architecture.
Oh, no, I love like old, like
That's how-
European, like, you know, all that, all the designs and everything. You look at the temples and whatnot.
Yeah,
like, I mean, we've lost beauty.
Well,
man.
the architecture
Gone.
here goes
But
into
I want to hear what you have to say because you're the one that you experienced it.
Yeah. So with the idea of everything flowing back up to God, there's a hierarchical structure, and we're talking even pre-Christian era. And when a city was made, that the temple was always in the center of the city, because a temple is the connection between heaven and earth. And then from that, it flows outward. And there's the idea of sacred architecture, sacred geometry. And these are building with a purpose of pointing to the things unseen, pointing, transcendentally, because it's reminding us of, of our connection with the cosmos and everything like that. So if you go into an Orthodox church, you're going to be surrounded in probably, the most beautiful church ever.
Yeah.
You've got, pictures of the saints, icons of the saints and everything like that everywhere, because when you step into it, it is heaven and earth coming together and joining on that
At
altar.
that time, it's like the center of the universe.
And that time and space, exactly. And it's, it's the same thing in the human heart. Well, Dostoevsky, one of the most famous 20th century writers, Russian, and has probably got some of the best novels on human suffering, the human experience, like Shakespeare, but for kind of more our day, said that beauty will save the world. Because when you try to interact with somebody on the intellectual realm and, you're debating, you're arguing, we all know about this right now, you're just going to be butting heads and nothing will go past it. Well, beauty is, since it's transcendental, it can go straight past the intellect realm and go straight into your heart.
Yeah.
You go on, to a mountain, you go on top of that mountain and you see, it just makes sense, because beauty can reveal something to us about creation or about, man. And that beauty can move the soul closer to God. So understanding the ancient medieval stories and everything like that, understanding the ancient, way that cities were made, and like you said, in old Europe or anything like that, the architecture, everything had beauty, because
So beautiful.
Exactly.
There's so much intention behind it. You talk about like going to the these church or these temples, right? And just it was beauty, because that was the center, that was the connection. And like in my mind, like to me, that's like when we get together in nature.
Yep, exactly.
Because like cities are so far removed from nature, and so many people, and I think nature is like nature's God, man, and it's beautiful.
Yep.
And so when we do ritual in the woods, in nature, like to me, that's the most beautiful place there is.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it reminded me of this story. Like Lydia came to Midsummer a couple of years ago, and we were like chanting into this tree. And afterward, I was like, "You good?" And she was like, "I don't know what to think. I saw my boyfriend praying to a tree."
Yeah.
And I was like, what you don't understand is like right now during that ritual, that's the center of the universe. That tree is connecting us to the cosmos. And we're charging it with so much intention, and it's going upward. It's not praying to the tree necessarily, but that is our conduit. So very similarly, how you say that.
This is how Lao Tzu, is right around the time of Confucius, and discovered the Tao, in which the Tao is, the ordering principle of the universe, because he was basically, a monk. He was a hermit who, through chasing down the natural revelation of God and being in nature and, closing off the gates of the soul and going internal, was able to discover God. So if you want to find God, he's everywhere. And then, that beauty draws us closer to him. So I think that's a good little, little teaser for next time.
Yeah,
you might wanna ask
definitely. So, and I want to, God, we're going to break into this more, man. And one thing to say though too is like those cathedrals and the beauty behind them. Like I love that, man.
It's amazing.
No offense to anybody, but a church isn't supposed to look like a shopping mall.
Correct.
100%.
And it's not supposed to be riddled with stores and material shit to go by. It's a place of worship.
Yeah.
And like that irks me because it should be beautiful. Like, but churches nowadays, they don't look like that. And it's just like,
it transports you.
Where we lost
it does.
Yeah. But materials become more and more important. Anyways.
For history's sake, before you ask the question, I don't know how we ended up doing a whole thing on faith this time, but
F.
think about.
I knew it. I literally, guy says religion died. Right?
Think about like all we're talking about. You're talking about ancient Christianity. You're talking about
Yeah.
paganism. Think about not a very long time ago in human history, you two would be fighting a war right now.
Oh,
maybe not, man.
maybe not.
But you know what I'm saying? No, we're sitting having a conversation.
Paul was chatting it up, with the best Greek philosophers ever.
Earlier days before religion really took a big control, like more so and aggressive of like taking over, they found that like people would gather, and even though they had different gods or whatever, they realized they understood one thing, and they had the same moral code, honor, values, things like that, and people could come together based on certain regardless of Tyler or not. Like I talk about honor all the time. People come together based off honor and values and stuff, and like there's so many virtues, exactly. And they were like,
oh,
we can actually get those
passions.
we get along just fine. We just like got different names for shit, you know.
Well, I just think it's beautiful in general, just like in the scope of human history. If you think about it,
it's
pretty.
Like I said, it's all connected.
Yeah, there was a time when we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So, anyways,
except I got my sword.
Yeah, he's like, and with that, it is off with you.
No, that'd be
all right,
crazy
do your question,
for a
Joe.
podcast. All right, so
he would. He said, no, that'd be a decapitation, dude. That'd be nuts.
I would not do it. You're the man.
Hey,
awesome. Hey, no, and I love this conversation, man. It's very open-minded and just very like it's really cool understanding across the board. And I want to do a whole episode about this kind of stuff because like I think people being willing to communicate such different ideas, and bring it together, and I think that's what we need in this world.
100%.
Because we shouldn't be at each other's throats because at the end of the day we align more than people realize, and I love that.
Well, you guys just talked through it, and at the end of it, I was like, "Damn, you guys it's actually pretty similar."
Yeah,
you know, like,
exactly.
In real time, we just saw that happen.
Go freaking figure.
Yeah,
you know. But last thing.
Yeah.
What is your relentless pursuit?
That starts, if we're talking now, where we're talking about the human heart and everything like that. So it's the relentless pursuit of Christ, and then everything flows from that. It's the relentless pursuit of that connection, to God, and then everything flows from that. So that, goes through film, we're relentlessly pursuing it to bring beauty, to be able to, use it to point people back to, to the spiritual. That goes, relentless pursuit into fitness, working with the passions and helping people with, their human heart, coming to get deeper into the, the spiritual thing. It's been helping me in fitness because you're able to understand, what somebody's going through, several different layers. So the relentless pursuit that's a complicated, question, through martial arts. So I'd say the relentless pursuit is, just becoming the person that God made me to be, and
becoming the person that God intended to be.
Yeah, exactly. And that's living up to your full human potential. Sound very Jordan Peterson here.
No, I love that, man.
You gotta read that fucking book, man.
Yeah. All those things that you're doing, you're talking about beauty and like, fulfilling God, right? Like on your relentless pursuit. That's the thing is when you look at your work as holy work.
Yeah.
I look at everything I do. I'm like, I want to inspire people. Like, this is holy. What I do is holy. Like, I believe in that. And that's a cool thing, man. And like, it ties into what your relentless pursuit is, man. And I'm here for it, bro.
Yeah. Dude, we'll definitely have to
we could go for another 4 hours.
It's a pleasure, man. We're going to make this happen, dude.
Yeah,
we're going to make it happen sooner than later. But, hey, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Hey, man, that was an absolute
blast. I loved hearing your story. There's so much more I want to dive into, and obviously these topics. But, that's why we can do this again.
More reason to have you back.
Exactly.
Looking forward to it, bro.
See you guys next time.